back on Press Row, and this week we got more confirmation that a couple of solid basketball players will not jump to the NBA this year. Willie Warren says he will return to OU, and James Anderson says he will be back at OSU. Jenny, did they make the right move?
I think they did. I think both these guys have great potential. I think if they would have jumped, they probably would have been drafted this year. I think that the NBA tends to like guys who can jump well and run well, and both of those guys fit the bill. And they obviously have shown that they have some skills. But another year in college, barring some major catastrophe, an injury or something like that, will only help these two. I think they're going to be much more polished players, much more refined players by the time that they get done with next season. I think they've got great potential, Don. I think it's only going to get better for them.
Yeah, you use the right word. You use solid. They are solid basketball players, Barry. And are the NBA ready? No. But with the weakness of this year's draft, you weren't sure what they were going to do. Some say Willie Warren is a lottery pick. Well, he looked like that second half against Texas and against Kansas, but he looked anything but that for a lot of games this year. No harm in both of these guys coming back.
You talk about the draft being weak. Is it so weak that so many guys are getting in that it actually becomes better in the middle? I mean, it's not good at the top, the Blake Griffin and those guys, but in the middle, is it so weak that so many guys are getting in, you'd be better off waiting until next year?
Somebody yesterday at the Thunder said, this year's number 10 pick would be last year's number 20 pick. And that's a big gap, 10 players. I mean, you got 30 teams looking for players. If that's cut by a third in quality, Barry, that's a weak draft.
And it seems like, too, it's probably going to be a lot on need. You're right, Barry, after those first couple of players, it really drops off. And it's anybody's guess who will be the, fifth pick? I mean, do we have any idea who the fourth, fifth, sixth picks will be? I think it's going to be a lot on need, which really it makes a roll of the dice for a lot of these guys. And, yeah, it has been surprising to see some of these guys that have jumped out there. But I think you're going to see next year with Anderson and Warren, if they refine their game like they look like. I mean, look at the improvement James Anderson had this last year. He really showed some good signs of improvement. If he has that kind of improvement again, if Willie Warren has similar improvement, these two guys are going to be faces of the Big 12 Conference. I think they'll be right up there with Cole Aldrich and Sharon Collins at Kansas. And they'll really put themselves out there, and people will know who they are. It's not like this year, if they'd have gone in, people would have been like, oh yeah, I remember that James Anderson guy. He had a good game against whoever. Not if they have that improvement next year, that won't be the case. Everybody will know these two.
What about the NBA's tendency to like a player the longer he stays in college? Because you don't see a lot of college seniors getting picked anymore. I mean, and even juniors. It's a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores. I mean, is it a case where they could, the longer they stay in college, the more they expose their flaws to the NBA?
Yeah, that's part of it, and we got to remember the NBA is global. I mean, we're not even bringing in the international players here now, and that's why I think kids are jumping earlier, because they know it is a world game now more so than ever before, Barry.
Yeah, and I think could it potentially hurt him? Sure, I think there's always that potential that.
When will Hansbrough be taken?
Yeah. Yeah,
late first.
His stock was great last year, or so we thought. I mean, you just never know. But these two guys, to me, they look like they've got NBA type of bodies, skills, abilities. And, could they hurt themselves? Sure. But I think they're going to improve on what they already have, and I think they're going to be a lot better come next year.
My only concern in the NBA is sometimes we apply the basketball to the football model, which is where you get drafted really matters in the NFL in terms of paycheck. I mean, it's millions and millions of dollars. Not so much in the NBA. Maybe $500,000 or so between the number 10 pick and the number 20 pick, but it's not a huge difference. The key, in my opinion, is if you're able to play in the league, get in the league and get going. I think these guys are good enough to have gotten drafted and gotten on a roster. You mentioned Kyle Weaver, perfect example. And these guys will be better next year at this time if they play another year of college. They would be even better if they were in the NBA for a year, playing a little and practicing. So, I'm not sure they made the right move professionally, but anytime anybody says, you know what, I'm going to spend another year in college, I don't think you can ever go wrong with that move because it's the best time of your life and, it helps you in a myriad of ways.
Plus, they might move up, Barry, just with this year's mass exodus, however big it is. I mean, all these underclassmen leave. They just naturally move up, Warren and Anderson did.
Yeah. I think you're going to see them elevate. But you're right, Barry. I mean, would they be better if they had a chance to play 82 games? Sure. But rookies don't always get that opportunity either. They might be in the D League, or they might sit the bench a lot. Kyle Weaver sat the bench a lot before he got into games.
Blake Griffin would not have improved as much as he did this year if he was an NBA rookie last year. He wouldn't have played. And Capel thinks that. Scott Brooks thinks that. Because he would have been sitting the bench. He would have been going against the best players in the world. But for how long and how frequently?
Now, I'm not sure he'd been sitting the bench. He might have only played 15 minutes a game, maybe 20 minutes a game. But 20 minutes a game of 82 games is more than 35 minutes a game of 35 games. So I'm not sure I buy that. I mean, I don't know how much Blake Griffin improved by playing against Colorado and Texas Tech.
But you do know he improved.
I do know he improved, and I do know that if he was, if he was going against, the Thunder's a bad example because they're not that great inside. But you go to another team that's pretty stout inside, practice against those guys. You got to bring your hard hat. Hey, let's take another break. When we come back, we'll talk some college football.